Now it's time to focus on paint layer and learn something new about the properties in the paint and how we can use this layer too. So let's create a base layer here. I'm going to rename it to base layer. Okay, and let's create a dark gray like this. Let's learn a new tip that can help us to remove some repetition work, and we can do it to kind of a new way of copy paste across the texture set. The scenario is I have this layer, it's okay, and I need to have this layer, exactly this layer, for body texture set and the base texture set. As you can see, we have three different texture set here, okay? The old way is I can Control C or copy this layer and go to the body, and now I can use Control V or just paste layer here, okay? You can paste layer with going to right click and paste layer, and you can copy or cut and go to the another texture set and you can paste here, okay? But whenever you change a parameter, for example, change the color to something like red, you need to update all the layers manually. So it's not a good way to control the layer across all the textures that we have. So what is the best way to do that? Okay, let's go back to the other texture sets and remove all the layers. Okay, let's go back to the head. And in here, I can go or instantiate across texture set, or you can use just Control-Shift-D. Okay, with this feature, Control-Shift-D, we have a new window, and we can select among of other texture set. It means we can choose which texture set that we want to have this layer inside. Okay, so I just press OK for body and base, and if you change anything related to this layer, exactly this layer, you can see all the texture set have the same parameter. Okay, you can do it with the paint layer, or just you can use a smart material like this. Okay, so this is a very good feature that you can control something across all the texture set. Okay, so let's go back for the paint layer. Okay, that's fine. And another tip, you usually use this kind of feature on fill layer or a smart material. We are going to explain what is a smart material, but in the future. And now you just need to remember that you don't use instantiate on paint layer, okay? Okay, now let's go for the paint layer. I just create a new layer, which is a paint layer. And now I can recall it to paint underline test. And now we have a brush. As you can see, we select a brush tool. We have erase tool. It means you can erase your brush. It's so easy. And let's create something. Okay, I just paint something on the surface. And you cannot paint on the texture set that you're not into. So you need to select the texture set, the first, and create a paint layer. And after that, you be able to paint on the surface. So the first drawback that you are using paint as a layer, it's you cannot change anything after painting the data. What does it mean? Okay, I just paint a red stroke, right? And if I change the color to something like blue, it's not going to change. So I need to repaint the stroke like this to update the data. So this is the first drawback, okay? But we have another technique that we are going to use a lot in Substance Painter to cover this issue. It's like, okay, I'm going to create a fill layer. Let's call it paint. That's it. And instead of using the paint as a layer, I'm going to use a paint as a mask for a fill layer. So in this way, I can have the feature related to the paint, and I can have a dynamic data channel. Okay, so let's add a black mask. That's it. I'm going to add a sublayer, add paint. Okay, so the sublayer is like a layer related to another layer. So I'm going to create a sublayer, a paint layer actually, and inside this sublayer, now I'm going to paint. So let's change the color. Yeah, it's update. So this is the way that we can cover this issue. It's not all the time play as an issue for us, but most of the time we consider that as an issue inside Substance Painter. So I just want to mention that here at the beginning of the learning paint layer, and you can decide what technique you can use in your project. And we are going to use a lot, both of them, paint layer and the paint as a mask, and that's it. So let's go back to the paint, and we can understand now we don't have access to editing the data after painting. It's okay. Let's go to the erase and erase everything here. Okay. That's it. Let's go back to the paint. Now I'm going to paint, for example, a blue, metallic, and reflective data inside here. Okay. And now I decided to remove the metallic data, just metallic. So how can I do that? And now I'm going for erase. It's a very good tool. And in here, you can see all the channels inside the material section has turned on. So we can hold Alt and click on metallic and turn off other channels. And now I just remove the metallic data from the layer. Yeah, this is the way that we can control the data with the paint layer. So let's go back to the paint and let's speak about the brush option that we have here. So you can control the size of the brush in here, and you can paint here to see what's happening before painting on the surface. So this is the way you can use this canvas to see what happened after setting this brush setting or other setting in here in the properties. So let's see what we have here. Okay, that's it. And what is this minimum size? It's related when you go for the pen tablet, and when you want to use pen tablet as your primary tool inside Substance Painter, you can control the size, the percentage of the size in here. And it's totally related to the pen pressure. And let's use the pen and pen tablet inside Substance Painter and see what's happening if I change this minimum size. Okay, the feature is turned on. It means my pen pressure is working now. And if I press slide D, and you can see what's happening right now. Yeah, and you can control the size of the brush with the pen pressure. Okay, and what if I just give this a slider and make it 100? Okay, in this way, you don't have any pen pressure at all. But what if I put it on 0? It means, okay, you can paint nothing like this. But when you set a number here, this is the minimum size for your stroke. Okay, so there is no disconnected brush stroke like this. So this is the feature, and you can turn it off or turn it on. That's it. And whenever you see the minimum size, minimum flow, or any other setting like this, it means you can control the pen pressure setting in here. And this is the icon that you can turn off or turn on the feature. So this setting related to the flow. Let's see what we have in the flow. Okay, let's remove all the setting. You can switch between erase and paint with 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Okay, so let's go for the paint, and I'm going to change flow to, for example, 10, and let's use mouse and turn off the pen pressure feature for the size, and let's paint. Okay, as you can see, I need to paint 10 times to achieve the result that I have with 100 flow. So the flow, it means you can control the intensity of the brush, and it's totally different by stroke opacity. So let's see what we have in stroke opacity, and after that we can have a best compare between these two features. So we have stroke opacity. This is a 100 stroke opacity, as you can see, and let's decrease the opacity to 10. And now I just paint here, and it doesn't matter how many times I paint over. The maximum opacity of the brush is 10. But in the flow, you can increase your intensity of the brush with brushing over and over. And this is the difference between stroke opacity and stroke flow. Okay, so let's go back for 100 in stroke opacity. Let's go to the erase and erase all the thing here. And now let's go for the spacing. So what is the spacing? The spacing, it means when you put it on 100, as you can see, it's going to work like this. And you can increase or decrease between each stamp of your alpha on the brush stroke. Okay? What does it mean? When you paint something, yeah, it's our stroke, and the brush moves like this. Okay? When you increase the spacing to something like 10, it means, okay, what is the size of the alpha? It's like this. Okay, just press 1 and go for the next one, and go for the next one, and go for the next one. And this is the style when you increase the spacing. And whenever you decrease the spacing, they are going to overlap each other. It's like this. Okay, and you can understand the solid shape of the stroke like this. So you can control the spacing with the spacing tool, and as you can see in here, you can see what's happening if you increase the spacing and what's happening when you decrease the spacing. That's it. And let's go for the 100 spacing, because we are going to talk about the jitter. And okay, this is the normal brushing system inside Substance Painter with no jitter. And when you increase the jitter, it means you are using randomness in the size, in the flow, in the angle, in the position. Okay, so I'm going to use size jitter. So let's paint the brush, and as you can see, yeah, there is difference between each stamp on the stroke. Okay, now we can, for example, use position jitter, and when we paint like this, this is the stroke path. Each stamp goes differently in random direction. Okay, so this is the jitter, and we can use jitter to create so many amazing effects, like dirt on the surface or a scratch or something else. So for understanding other option in brush like angle, follow path, alignment, back face culling, and size space, we need to change the alpha. So let's go for the alpha. It's so easy, and you can change the alpha like changing base color metallic from this menu here. When you click here, it's going to search for the alpha inside the library and the project, and you can choose whatever you want. So let's use, for example, this one. Okay. And when you select an alpha inside Substance Painter, it depends on the alpha, and you can maybe have some parameters like this. You can change the shape of the alpha, or there is no any parameters inside the alpha, and just like any image. Okay, so now we can understand what's happening in the alpha. We can select an alpha for us, and the data inside the material, they are going to apply on the surface with alpha shape. Okay, so let's go back here. Now I can change the angle of the alpha. As you can see, for example, this is the alpha, the result of the brush with 74 angle, and this is the result of the alpha with 0 angle. Maybe you need to paint some brushes and a stroke in the painter, and you need to change the direction of the alpha and follow the path. So you need to turn on follow path, and as you can see, it's going to follow my stroke, but it's on the wrong direction, right? So just need to change the angle to 90, and as you can see, it's going to follow my stroke, and that's perfect. Okay, and that's it. Okay, I think that's enough for this video. Let's go for the next video and see what we have in the properties of the paint layer and continue our discussion.